Welcome to another episode of 9 to 5 Mac Weekly, where I'm not at the set right now because I'm sick. So you won't see my glorious face today, but we are going to take a look at what the next flagship iPhones could look like. So if you're excited for that, be sure to subscribe to the channel because we'll be covering this all the way to September when it launches. So you've got a few major details on the upcoming iPhone 14 Pro models. We're presumably going to be getting two Pro models this year, a 14 Pro and then a 14 Pro Max. We learned back in September from Mark Gurman that the 2022 iPhone lineup would feature a complete redesign, which definitely lines up with what we've been hearing recently. It seems to be pretty much guaranteed that this year's Pro iPhone models will feature a hole punch camera setup, so the notch after around 5 years will finally be going away, and I'd say it's definitely about time for that. Apple is low-key one of the only companies still shipping a phone with a sizable notch, but I've personally always given them some slack because the notch also holds the Face ID sensors, which work pretty well. Dylan DKT, a prominent new Apple leaker, tweeted this out this morning. He says, "I am able to corroborate information regarding a hole punch camera for the Pro models of the iPhone 14. Face ID hardware will be placed under the display as a reassurance to any concerns. The functionality of these sensors have not been negatively affected by this change." So this is seemingly how Apple's going to pull off the hole punch camera design, and when asked what the shape should look like, Dylan said it should be like a pill, which makes sense as I'm sure Apple will need to fit room for a few extra sensors in there and whatnot. This new hole punch design is something that I'm interested to see but not necessarily excited for because it's low-key just another example of Apple playing catch up. But if the Face ID sensor is going to be under the display, that leads me to wonder what else they could possibly be putting under the display that wasn't already there. There's also been a lot of speculation that the iPhone mini is going to be killed off, and this could be true because it's also been rumored that this year's iPhone lineup will consist of two sizes between four models, a 6.1-inch 14 and 6.7-inch 14 Max, and then the same thing for the Pro models. So despite tech enthusiasts constantly clamoring for a high-powered mini phone, Apple's doubling down on the larger size models because that's apparently what the broader market seems to want. But I am curious to see what this 14 Max will be priced at. Perhaps Apple could lower the price of the entry-level 14 a bit to give the Max model some breathing room, so perhaps we could see a starting price point of around $879 or $899, something like that. But we should definitely know a lot more in the coming months. What do you guys think of these iPhone 14 rumors so far though? Do any of these leaks excite you guys? We've also got some new tidbits on the upcoming iPhone SE from Dylan. The next generation iPhone SE has reportedly been delayed to 2024, so those waiting for a brand new iPhone SE will have to wait quite a bit longer. But Dylan did mention that this iPhone SE will feature a Touch ID sensor setup very similar to the iPad Air and feature an overall design that's very similar to the iPhone XR and 11. And this makes perfect sense that Face ID would be taken out to cut down on costs and get the iPhone SE in at that relatively low price point. I just personally hope that they can get the battery situation together because the current iPhone SE's battery is just straight up unusable for me. But apparently we will be getting an SE model this year with very minor changes. Dylan says to expect a 5G version of the 2020 model with a minor spec bump, and we've heard from various different sources that we'd be getting a 5G iPhone SE in 2022, so I think this is definitely a sure thing, and I'm curious to see how the battery life on this 5G model will hold up. And then to wrap up this DKT iPhone news frenzy, we've got some tidbits on the upcoming foldable iPhone model. Mark Gurman, Ming-Chi Kuo, and many others have corroborated the rumor that Apple is indeed working on a foldable flagship model to compete with the likes of Samsung. Dylan says that Apple's definitely working on and testing multiple prototypes that contain foldable displays, but that too many compromises still exist with foldable display technology. He says that there are concerns as to whether foldable smartphones will continue to have a legitimate spot in the marketplace or kind of fade away like a passing trend. Apple's apparently trying to play the long game as far as foldables go though, and that they're keen on making sure that the design of their foldable isn't a step back from the current iPhone models. And I think this is typical Apple behavior here. They're usually not the kind to be the first to implement new tech into their products as soon as it's introduced into the market. They usually like to watch everyone else's trials and errors and then jump into the market years later with a very refined version of that tech. And given how expensive it probably is for Apple to develop this product, it's only in their best interest that they take their time and make sure they create something that people will actually want to buy. And here's a clip of Mark Gurman talking about the upcoming Fold on the Mac Rumor Show, hitting a lot of the same points I just did.
Obviously, Apple will do a better job than Samsung, but that thing is going to be super slick and super expensive. I don't know if it'll launch in 2023 or 2024, but they are working on it, and I am excited. What they really like to do is they like to hit a later generation than, right? So what I mean by that is Apple's first generation of the foldable phone, technology wise, it's going to be on par with the fifth or sixth or seventh generation of the Samsung device. And instead of doing those first 5 crappy generations, they're waiting
They
to
don't
the really
want
good
this.
version of Gen 1.
They don't want this. They don't want this.
They don't
like
want this.
they don't want that crease. That's my guess.
Apples won't have a crease. There's no way. Yeah, I don't know that for sure, but the goal, I'm sure, is no crease.
So when should we expect to see this folding iPhone? Well, the current word on the street is 2023 or 2024, but analyst Ming-Chi Kuo has said that he expects Apple to ship around 15 to 20 million foldables in 2023, and that they'll be working with Samsung as their exclusive supplier for the display hardware. 20 million foldables is a lot, so Apple's definitely expecting this to be a very successful product, despite what should be a very high price tag. So out of all these upcoming iPhone models, which one are you looking forward to the most? I think that most people will generally say the folding iPhone just because that's an entirely new form factor, but as far as this year, I'm very curious to see what changes the iPhone 14 Pro redesign will bring. But as the months go by, we'll have more and more info getting leaked out on all of these devices, so if that's something you want to follow along with, be sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.